start in a subcommittee so Senator Crawford can present her bill and get back to appropriations. So Senator, start when you're ready. When we get a quorum, we'll go ahead and just jump into that and then go into executive session, just so you know, Senator. But proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate you letting me hop in here. It looks like hopefully mine's the most or the least controversial.
Yours is
bill.
the most popular. I think everybody's here to testify in yours.
It's going to be a long hearing, isn't it? For the record, Sandy Crawford, District 28. Thanks for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 738. This bill will actually we'll be using a Senate committee sub that had some minor changes, so I'll be talking about the sub. The bill makes 3 changes. It increases the processing fee from $6 to $9 for motor vehicle and trailer registration, titles, driver's license permits, etc. for 1 year, and from $12 to $18 for a 3-year permit. Also includes a provision that will prohibit former employees of the Department of Revenue from owning a license bureau for a period of 1 year after they leave the department, due to insider information, things like that. And then the last thing it does is it includes a provision that sets up a fund that's called the License Office Distribution Fund, which $1 of the new fee increase will be deposited into a fund to be distributed quarterly to all offices. Happy to answer any questions, but I have some expert witnesses, or at least one, behind me that should be able to fill in any blanks that you have.
Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. Thank you, Senator. Anybody here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 738? Please make sure you fill out a witness form for our records and proceed when you're ready.
And I have some information. For everybody.
Yeah, we'll hand it out if you want to give it to us. We'll pass it around.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm Jenny Moore, the agent for the Brookfield License Office, and I speak in support of our Senate Bill 738. Senator Crawford, thank you so very much for begging the license offices to let you sponsor our bill regarding the funding of the license office, distribution fund, and the revision of the bid process and the fees. The passage of this bill is the precipitating factor for keeping our license open, as well as other small offices in our very rural region. And thank you as well, Senator Fitzwater and members of the Committee on Transportation Infrastructure and Public Policy, for hearing our plea. The information I've given you here is just a visual graphic of where we're located. We're up north, central, and there's an orange star by our office. And the whole rest of this is license offices that on the back side of your map are considered to be by the Department of Revenue at risk for being very low volume in transactions as well as finances, and potentially at risk for closing. My story is similar to other agents in the areas, and you each have some offices that are in trouble. Senator Fitzwater, you have one, and Senator Bean has 4 in his areas, and I'm sure you're probably aware of that. In January of 22, we began experiencing a considerable loss of revenue from the online transactions. And it made it very difficult for us to be able to make ends meet. I've been an agent and had a contract since 2015. And my husband and I had an opportunity to open the office. We bid for it after doing due diligence and felt that while it was not going to make us wealthy, it was certainly going to be profitable enough for us to be able to have a little profit at the end of the year. And so when we opened and got into business, we did fairly well. And then the fees at that time were ridiculously low, and we began to realize that we had not planned well enough because there were unexpected and undisclosed expenses that we were having immediately after we opened that were not disclosed prior to the bid. So we held forth thinking that things would get better, and there was a move to do a fee increase, which helped. And then in 2020, right after the increase took effect, COVID hit. So we had a terrible downturn of business for that because we were closed. So we over the course of time had 14 extensions to our amendment, or to our contract, that were each 3 months long, and can't really do a business plan at 3-month levels. But we stuck with it, thinking that we would have a successful run for the fee increase, which did happen. And so we were able to do well even through COVID. I was able to take care of my employees, keep them all employed. We have an office that is in a small community. I live 3 blocks from the office and can walk to work or be there at a moment's notice. And we know many of our customers very personally because they live in the neighborhood. And so they were very supportive of us through all of that. And as time has passed then, and the fee increase that we got in 2019 was absorbed by the huge expense of paper and fuel and insurance, and of course the labor costs that went up annually for the hourly increase for the employees. We did fine until the online activity by the state kind of absorbed all of that. And instead of returning those fees to us, there was about $6 million in agent fees that were sent not to us, but somewhere else. And that really made a huge difference in the way we were able to do business and to budget for things. So last season we had a similar bill that really was well received through both the House and the Senate. And we were very hopeful that it would get through the process. But so here we are again, hoping that we're speaking to the choir who's in favor of what we're doing here, because I'll tell you the truth. When I was doing my taxes last year and this year, last year I had an $11,000 loss in business over the course of that time, due primarily to the online activity and the increase in cost. But since Director Wallingford has been the director of the DOR, he has made a remarkable effort and has been wonderful about really wanting to support the rural offices and keep them open, because not everybody wants to go online with their work. We don't have the rural broadband capability to be able to do that. And they just prefer coming in to see us, because for them, a lot of them, the older people, like to come in because it's their social day out. So with the work that Director Wallingford is doing, we are getting ready to be able to provide some wonderful new services to customers that are kind of all-encompassing, that will help our customers be able to just come in and take care of it all in one, standing at one station rather than having to go different places for a driver license and that sort of thing. So we're very excited about that opportunity. But that will be coming, I think, in the fall. And so the renewed relationship that we have with DOR and working with them has been very supportive and wonderful. And so what we're hoping to be able to do is, since I just recently signed a new contract and agreed to a 5-year contract, we're in our first year of it. I have to say that when I did our taxes this year, we only had a $5,000 loss, so we're moving in the right direction, but it's not nearly enough for us to be able to press on without the passage of this bill. And so we appreciate the ability to do the service with the DOR, and we appreciate their support, and we appreciate so much your listening to our plea. And I will say that it's just the facts. If this bill does not pass, I will have to, in June, cancel my contract because I will not be able to keep it open. And if you'll notice on the little map you have in this area, someone has to drive. If our office closes and there are other offices around me, they're also part of this at-risk group, we will have to drive 25 to 50 miles if we want to do in-person work. And that's just for the in-person stuff that can't be done online. But it'll really, it's a huge area, and it is the entirety of both Senator O'Loughlin and Senator Black's districts. And it'll just be hard for us if we have to close.
Okay.
So thank you so very much for hearing us out today, and I would appreciate your support.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. We're going to really quick take a quorum and then go into executive session. Ben, call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Bean.
Here.
Eigel.
Here.
Razor. Schroer.
Here.
Williams.
Quorum being established, I now move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Having a second, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're in executive session. I move that Senate Bill 990 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill was heard last week by Senator Carter. It allows for permanently disabled people to not have to prove to the state every 5 years that they are still disabled. We do have a committee substitute ending in 02C. It adds a piece that does basically the same thing, but for permanently blind folks. They don't have to keep going to the doctor to prove that they're blind. Is there any discussion on the underlying bill or the substitute? Any discussion on the substitute? Seeing none, I move that we adopt the substitute. Having a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We adopted the sub. Any discussion on the committee substitute? Seeing none, I now move that we do pass Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 990. Having a second, Ben, call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Bean.
Aye.
Eigel.
Aye.
Razor. Schroer. Williams.
By a vote of 5-0, you have voted do pass Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 990. I now move that Senate Bill 1374 be brought before the committee. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is before the committee. I move that Senate Bill 1374 be voted out of committee. Do pass. I have a second. The bill was presented last week by Senator Gannon, and it would create Bentley's Law. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, Ben, call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Bean.
Aye.
Eigel.
Aye.
Razor. Schroer. Williams.
By a vote of 5-0, you voted do pass Senate Bill 1374. That will end the executive session. I move that we move out of executive session. Having a second, we are out of executive session. Senator Crawford, we're back on your bill. Anybody else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 738?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Terry Cole. Good morning, Senator Brown, Senator Fitzwater, Senator Bain, Senator Schroer. Appreciate y'all letting me come in for just a few minutes. I'm from the Boot Hill. I run some license bureaus. Back in 2019, 2020, we got a fee increase, but then COVID hit, and our doggone it. I just got off the plane. I'm sorry. Anyway, our salaries went from $12, and I'm paying anywhere from $16 to $22 an hour right now. And we just can't continue. I've got some small license bureaus. I've got one license bureau, for instance, in Fredericktown. It brings in about $50,000, and it's too big for one person, too small for two people, if you know what I mean. And this fee increase would help us out a lot. It's a $2 fee increase for the agents, and then $1 that would be distributed between all of us. And it kind of prop us up. If we have to close Fredericktown or Arcadia Valley, Senator Bean, you probably know where I'm talking about. You're down in our area. People are going to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get their driver's license and license plates. And right now, to get driver's license, if you got a CDL, you have to have two people in an office. One person can't do it. It takes two. And so I'm asking that y'all please consider this bill. Hopefully we'll never have to come back to you again. And as old as I am, I probably won't have to. You know, but I would really appreciate you thinking about our bill. I'm not going to take a lot of your time because you all know how COVID hit us. And I just ask that you deeply consider this.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the witness? Senator Bean, go ahead.
Just comment, Mr. Cole, I really appreciate you coming up. You do a good job, and absolutely know how important it is to keep those offices open because we have to go, even where I'm at, pretty good ways at times to get that.
Right.
So once again, we do appreciate that.
And we have a lot of small offices in our area. You know, and even I know the big offices are having a hard time making it with these new salaries that we're coming up with. You know, the inflation's just killing us. Any other questions? I mean,
Seeing no further questions, thank you for your testimony.
I sure appreciate y'all's time.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. Anybody else here to testify in favor? And if the department could shut off their phones, that'd be great. Zach. Proceed when you're ready.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Ryan Williams. I'm the legislative chair and co-founder of the Missouri Association of License Offices. I'm just going to take a second of your time just to clarify a few other things. I hear from agents all over the state daily that are literally begging, hoping that this fee increase will pass for them to even be able to continue operating. There's many that are going into their retirement funds and all, keeping offices open, especially in the small communities where, as I've had many people say, I'd have to move out of the community if I closed the license office. But it doesn't just affect small offices. I can give you examples, and just off the top of my head, in the large offices, Chesterfield, Independence, St. Joseph, O'Fallon, Wentzville, there's about 15 offices at least that the current agent has chose, even in these huge offices, not to rebid because the finances are not there. So I want you to realize we're in a perfect storm that literally I believe that you could see 35, 40 offices close in the next 6 months if we don't get this much needed fee increase. So that's all I wanted to add. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 738? Anybody here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 738? Anyone for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing. Senator, any closing remarks?
Just real quickly, I mean, everybody said it, especially in the rural areas. I would much rather take a small fee increase than take off a half a day's work to go get my driver's license. And many of these areas don't have broadband capabilities. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, I guess I got the gavel now. Hey. Senator Fitzwater, I guess you're going to present Senate Bill 1257 whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I got a couple bills this morning. Thanks for their patience in hearing. There's going to be a lot of testimony on these, and these are, I would say, there's a lot of effort going into these. And so appreciate your patience as we work through these complex issues. The first one is Senate Bill 1257. It is a prompt pay bill for subcontractors. And the genesis of this is really my father-in-law's been a contract painter for a long time. He's had trouble getting paid at times by contractors that he's worked for. And so this just kind of puts in state statute at least some parameters on how subcontractors can get paid in a timely fashion. It's pretty complex. And I'm sure that there's plenty of changes that need to happen. This is not a finished product. But I think having the discussion is really important to protect those small businesses around our state that are struggling to survive in an environment where they don't really have the resources to fight the bigger guys with lawyers and liens and the things that it takes to try to get paid as a subcontractor. So trying to have that conversation, it means a lot to our family. To my father-in-law in particular, who's done this for a career, trying to do good work and get paid in a timely manner. So that's the genesis of the bill. There's plenty of people that I think are going to come up here that are going to talk about it, so they can kind of talk about their own stories, their own details for and against this bill. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Please come forward. Whenever you're ready. And I want to remind the witnesses to leave a form there if you want your testimony in public record. There should be a witness appearance form there to fill out. Thank you.
morning, Senators. Kind of feel a little bit like that Jelly Roll song, Lord, I Need a Favor. The only time I come up and talk to you guys is when I'm asking for something. But it's also imperative that we get something done on this. My name's Tim Weiss. I'm the CEO of TJ Weiss Contracting and Titan Carpentry. We're headquartered in Lake St. Louis, Missouri, and have offices up here in Jeff City and another office down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. We're a self-performing commercial drywall and carpentry subcontractor. We contract most of our work through the general contractors and construction managers. We're currently celebrating our 30th year in business, and as of last week, we employ 793 U.S. citizens. 693 are in the eastern two-thirds of Missouri, and there's 100 down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. These folks are earning an average wage of about $75,000 a year, with an additional $40,000 a year in healthcare and retirement. Now, talk a little bit about our industry. The majority of the GCs and the CMs on the building side of the construction industry, they self-perform very little on a project nowadays. They subcontract most of the work out on a building project. A lot of times the only direct labor they have on the job site is the project superintendent, maybe a laborer or two. So they don't have a whole lot of labor costs every month on the project. The subcontractors that are hired, we perform most of the work on the project. In the commercial construction industry, the typical payment cycles kind of revolve around, a lot of you might have had some home remodeling done on your house, and in the home remodeling sector, there's a upfront, you have to pay a deposit, up to a 50% deposit before somebody even walks on the job. We sign a contract and we walk on the job, and we wait to be paid. We put men and material on the job, and we wait to be paid. In our typical contracts, we invoice on the 25th of the month, extended through the end of the month. So with that being said, if we start a project on the 1st of March, we invoice on the 25th of March. On an extremely good paying job, we might see that money by April 30th. In most instances, we're probably lucky to see it by May 30th. So we've expended 8 to 10 weeks of labor and material before we see a penny. So you have to be able to finance a project. Unfortunately, we're the bank on these jobs, but we don't get access to anybody's ability to pay. We don't get to screen the owner's ability to pay, whether they have the money. So we're relying on our customers, the general contracting community, to be able to make good decisions for us. Their clauses, their subcontract clauses, and it's in every one of them. We are not allowed to have any correspondence as a subcontractor. We aren't allowed to have any correspondence with the owner. Everything has to flow through any correspondence has to flow through the general contractor or construction manager. We aren't allowed, if we aren't getting paid in a timely manner, we have to continue to work. We aren't allowed to pull our men and material off the job. And as I said before, we aren't privy to the owner's ability to pay. We're relying, and the contract clauses we sign are pay when paid. It's not pay if paid, which is kind of horrendous, but pay when paid. Once again, we're a bank, but we don't get any of the information a bank gets when they make a loan to somebody. We're making a loan to the project, and we don't get any information to make sure that we're going to get repaid. So let me put a hypothetical job scenario to you, and I gave you a handout, so the math is on there for you. Let's say it's a $500,000 general contract project. So it's got a 5-month duration, and I did this for easy math. Say it's $100,000 a month in billings for the GCs, or for the whole project to make up that $500,000. So the GC usually has about a 3% fee, some more, some less, but that's $15,000 on that $500,000 job. And they usually have about 6% overhead, cover their general conditions, which would be about $30,000. So they're on that $500,000 job. They've got about $45,000 that they're billing for to collect themselves. The subcontractors have the other $455,000. So each month out of that $100,000 that's invoiced, the $91,000 is due to the subcontractors, $9,000 is due to the general contractor. So with that being said, there's not a whole, the general contractor is working for their customer, the owner, whoever is developing. They want to keep a good relationship with that customer, so that if that customer is delinquent in paying them, there's not a whole lot of skin in the game for that general contractor to expend a lot of time trying to collect the money that he's only going to get $9,000 of the $100,000. The rest goes out. So we're relying on our customer, the general contracting community, to collect the money for us to pay us because of the way the contracts are written. So as you can see, there's a problem here. Now, a lot of subcontractors are small contractors. They're undercapitalized. As you can see, if you're funding a project for 8 to 10, 12 weeks, that's a lot of money going out the window. You better have some pockets deep enough to be able to pay your labor and material, labor weekly, your material. The guys out there working, they kind of like to eat and like to make their payments. So you got to pay them weekly, and you got to pay your materials on a monthly basis. But the subcontractors are carrying the financial risk, and we're not seeing the reward for that. Got a bunch of stuff I wrote down. You can read it at your leisure. But I want to jump into this in expediency. My GC and construction manager colleagues are probably going to come up and talk against this. And one of the first things I find it interesting. I would say there's a substantial portion of the general contracting community really do want to pay their subs in a timely manner. But they aren't going to take out of their pocket to pay the subs, so they're waiting to get paid by the owner. Well, they're in between with this bill. They're in between a rock and a hard spot. If they agree that they'd like to be paid in a timely manner, so they could pay in a timely manner, that kind of upsets their customers, the owners and the developers. So they have to take a stand and make a point that they're standing against this bill and protecting their owner community. It's another statement that they're probably going to bring up is they need to be able to withhold money from poorly performing subcontractors. There are some general contractors that view subcontractors as a necessary evil, and in some cases we're second-tier citizens, and so they feel that they need to withhold money to be able to make sure that the project gets completed. Well, my response to that is they made the choice to hire that subcontractor. Nobody held a gun to their head and said, you need to hire those folks. If you've got somebody that's going to be problematic, I wouldn't want to deal with them. So, and then another objection to the bill might be, and this I understand a little bit more of free market capitalism and government not wanting to get involved in private contracts, but total free market capitalism really doesn't exist, and there needs to be guardrails, if you will, and protections because contracts can get out of hand and become more onerous on people who can't afford to fight that, and that's where we sit now. I kind of equate it to my colleagues on the horizontal side of our industry, the infrastructure side. We build interstates, highways, they're freeways. You can drive. We all have access to them. We can drive on them. But if there were total freeways, we could drive wherever we want. If we wanted to drive right down the middle, we could. So we paint lanes on the highways to keep people in their lanes. And so it's not totally a freeway where you can do whatever you want. And I kind of equate that to our side of the industry, that, we need some lanes, we need some help on the legislative front to be able to make sure that we give our customers, the general contractors, a little bit of breathing room with their customers to push a little harder to get paid faster to them so that they can pay us faster. I'll take any comments.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Thank you for your testimony. How many people are here to testify in favor of the bill? Please raise your hand. How many in opposition? Okay. Let's go ahead and, so we just have a couple more in favor of. Come on up. I'm going to try to have you keep your testimony to a couple of minutes because we've got a lot of witnesses here today and another bill to go through. So if you can, just try to keep your testimony brief, please.
My name is Rodney Fain. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Emeyer Contracting. We are an asphalt and concrete paving company in Weldon Spring, Missouri, which is in St. Charles County. We employ 110 union employees, and we're in a very competitive business. We do parking lot replacements, new parking lots. We repair streets, roads, etc. And we're in a very competitive business. The margins are very tight. The testimony I'm going to give is not only our experience, but also our competitors. We talk about this on a decently regular basis when we happen to be together for different functions. Mr. Weiss did a very good job going through the process of general contractor, so that will make my testimony much more brief. We have sales of about $40 million. Almost $10 million of that is with general contracting work. It's an important part of our business. We also do municipality and a lot of commercial work. At the end of 2023, our accounts receivable was approximately $10 million. 41% of that was with general contractors. We had almost $4 million that was past due out of $10 million, meaning it was greater than 30 days past the date when we would expect to get paid. For general contractors, we put 60 days in for our payment terms. Of the amount that's past due, 70% was with general contractors. So what we see is, and that's the number there would be $2.8 million. For us to finance that on an ongoing basis, and this is pretty typical for each month, that's almost $300,000 a year in finance charges if we to borrow the money to pay for that. With tight margins, that's pretty tough to do. Our average payment terms for our non-GC clients are just under 40 days. The average the average time to get paid for our non-GC clients is approximately a little under 40 days. With our general contractors, it's almost 130 days. Now, I don't understand the general contractor side of the business. I do know that we often hear, after we submit things and the way they need everything, we often hear that, hey, we have not gotten paid yet. Our only tool that we can use today to try to enforce payment is to file a lien against the contractor. That brings in legal costs on our side, legal costs on the general contractor side. We try to avoid that at all costs, but we do that multiple times a month throughout the year because we have no other alternative. We wait until 10 days before 6 months of our last day of working on the job, which is the last time we can give. We have to do that with 10 days prior 6 months in order to legally file a lien. So we do that several times. We do that several times a month. The tell you what, and to make this a little more brief, the other thing I was going to mention is, prior to my current position, I worked for Anheuser-Busch and retired in 2017. In 2008, late 2008, Anheuser-Busch was bought by a company called InBev. I was in the procurement group as a senior leader. My first assignment for the new company was to change payment terms for over 20,000 suppliers to 120 days. So for a year and almost a year and a half, I ran a project that extended payment terms from an average company average of 18 days to pay to over 100 days to pay on over 20,000 suppliers, except those who are protected by prompt pay laws in various states, and a lot of them being subcontractor. I can tell you that those work. My experience being on both sides of both now with a small company, prior with a big company, is that people with power use the power. People like us, small contractors, that have very little power, have very little to work with. So we're at the whim of both of general contractors and of the owners that pay them to do their jobs. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Thank you. Is there any other witness to testify in favor of the bill? Please come forward. Do we have any other witnesses in favor of after this? One more? Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, hello, Senator. For the record, my name is Aaron Griesheimer. I'm a registered lobbyist for Site Improvement Association. We're also a proud member of the Building Better Business Coalition, which was created in order to bring awareness to this issue and try to move this forward, this issue forward. Our membership, we have about 260 contractors and associate members that do site prep work, asphalt, concrete, earth moving, landscaping, sewer utility, etc. We are in full support of Senate Bill 1257. What I wanted to do is just kind of do a brief synopsis of just kind of getting the meat of it. So essentially what this bill does, it requires the owner, and again, this is on private projects, it requires the owner to pay the general contractor within 40 days of receipt of an invoice. The owner can still withhold payment when they receive that invoice. They have 15 days to notify the general contractor that they plan to withhold payment. If they do not, then they accept payment in full. However, there are provisions in this bill that state that they can still withhold payment if there's something that is discovered later on. And then once the general contractor has received payment from the owner, they have 7 days to pay their subcontractors. And then you heard great testimony already this morning. You heard about the paid when paid and paid if paid clauses that are sometimes in these private contracts. The general contractor must notify the subcontractors when they have received payment within 2 days. That eliminates that and kind of helps build trust on these projects. And then those same responsibilities, meaning the 7 days payment and the 2-day notice, trickles down to all the higher tier subs to the lower tier subs. There are a number of other provisions in this bill, but for the sake of time, Senator, I won't get into those. But, you know, I will just point out that this bill does include residential properties, but it does exclude individual homeowners. It's the same language, 40 units or less. That same provision is currently in the prompt pay statute that's currently in Missouri statute. We wanted to be sure that we included subdivisions, apartment buildings, multi-use developments. Senator Shore, I'm sure you see regularly in the Post-Dispatch, there's a lot of hundreds of homes going up in your area. So we wanted to be sure we protected those contractors that are building those homes as well. So,
any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
There are no witnesses testifying in favor of the bill. Please come forward. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible because we still have another bill to go to.
I will be brief.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to testify here today. My name is Kyle McKenna, and I represent approximately 150 contractors, electrical contractors in the eastern half of Missouri that contribute just in wages alone, approximately $260 million annually in wages. We're very proud of that, but that's not what we're here for today. On this prompt pay bill, it is highly important to the 150 or so contractors that I represent, and not all of them are subcontractors. We have one contractor that has served as a prime contractor, especially on photovoltaic work. So I do want to say that while we may hear from some individuals, GCs, that they're not in favor of this bill, they probably don't speak on behalf of the entire GC community, especially because we have a contractor that has served as a GC. And then lastly, I would note, as Tim Weiss touched on so eloquently, that there are provisions in here that provide protections to the GCs in case they have a poor performing subcontractor. Those are the provisions that I wanted to highlight today, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for a witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any witnesses testifying in favor of the bill? Any witnesses testify in opposition? Please come forward. How many witnesses do we have in opposition to the bill? Okay. Go ahead. Keep your testimony as brief as you can, please. Yep. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ed Tweehouse. I'm Vice President of Tweehouse Excavating. We're located here in Jeff City. We are a member of the Associated General Contractors of Missouri. I'm here this morning to testify on behalf of the AGC and its members. The AGC has approximately 550 members, and we're the only construction industry association in Missouri that represents commercial, building, highway, transportation, utility infrastructure firms. Our membership includes union and open shop contractors, large and small contractors, general and specialty contractors, and urban and rural contractors. The breadth of our membership spans 110 Missouri counties. So our perspective here is wide-ranging, and I'm speaking on behalf of the group. AGC of Missouri is opposed to Senate Bill 1257. We appreciate what Senator Fitzwater is trying to do here and for his efforts in filing this bill. And the committee should know that AGC met privately with Senator Fitzwater to discuss our issues, concerns with the bill. We've also met with proponents of this bill many times over the years to discuss our concerns, their concerns. I'll cut this short. Everything that I've got in my testimony has been said already. Prompt pay, I am absolutely in favor of. This is not the way to do it. At a 60,000-foot view, everything that the proponents have said is absolutely true and good. But when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, the details, that's where you get into problems. My company, we work about 50% as a general contractor and 50% as a subcontractor. Whenever we negotiate a contract, we look at the benefits and the risks and of our owners and our general contractors, and we decide who we want to work for. Mr. Weiss mentioned the free market system. That's part of the free market system, our ability to be able to choose who we work for and try to make money doing it. I would just ask you to read the bill closely. I would ask you to read my testimony if you get a chance, because everything that Mr. Griesheimer said with the days is completely true, but it becomes unworkable when you get down in the weeds. You're looking at all of these responsibilities and rights, especially responsibilities, going all the way down the line to every contractor, subcontractor, and material supplier on a project. So this isn't just the big bad GC having to pay everybody. This is the big bad GC having to pay everybody, and everybody under that having to play by the same rules as the bad GC. There are I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. There are bad actors in the industry, owners, contractors, subcontractors, but you're not going to fix a few bad actors with legislation that is 9 pages long and absolutely dictates the provisions of what I'm able to negotiate. I mean, negotiating a contract is almost out the door with this information or with this language. I guess I'll close that with, as I stated in the beginning, we're the only commercial construction association that represents all divisions and all types of work all across the entire state. We are willing to work on prompt pay legislation, but seriously, this bill isn't the one to do it.
I appreciate your testimony. Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just out of curiosity, what do you think would be a good fix, and what could Senator Fitzwater do to get AGC on board?
To get AGC on board, the language would have to be simplified extremely. This legislation refers back to current generally accepted contract law, and then starts going down the line and saying, okay, you can't do this. You can't, anything that is on this list of inclusions and exclusions, if you include any of these items, I think there's about 7 or 8 of them, if you include any of these items, then that portion of your contract is null and void. Then it goes on to say, if you exclude any of these provisions, then that section of your contract is again null and void, and this is the only way that it works. So, I mean, it's, again, 9 pages. It's a lot of words to address something that shouldn't be that difficult. And I mean, I mentioned responsibilities and rights go all the way down the chain. I mean, that gets all the way down to the smallest subcontractor on the end of the line. I could have a guy that on my project that's on the project with 2 guys and doing $10,000 worth of work, and he's got to do everything that is included in this that is making the owner pay the general contractor. I mean, this language is extremely all-inclusive, burdensome, and cumbersome. So simplification would get me on board.
So 1 word instead of 9.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other witnesses testify in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Grace here on behalf of the Missouri Growth Association. I appreciate the sponsor's aim. We've met with him. We'll continue to meet with him and discuss trying to help him achieve his goal, but here today in opposition to this draft.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in opposition to?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Fred Dreiling today representing the Builders Association AGC of Kansas City. We have over 700 members, 25,000 people employed in the construction trade, and we admit that this is a problem, but we don't think this bill is the solution. Therefore, we are in opposition, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testify in opposition to?
I'm Dale Black. I'm a home builder from Lincoln County. I'm a constituent of Senator Fitzwater's, and I've been in the home building business for 30-some years. And I'm a past president of the Greater St. Louis Home Builders Association, which represents both home builders, subcontractors, and vendors of all sizes. And so one of the things I wanted to bring to you today is just saying that this bill as written is cast too wide a net. It's we feel like that residential construction and the commercial construction industry are two different animals and not the same. And this bill, which Aaron made a comment that that residential was exempted, the way we read it is it's owner occupied is exempted, which would be remodeling work and those type of things. But we read it that we would not be exempted, and feel like it's going to create some burdens inadvertently that you're not thinking of. One of which is some of our home builders are only building 2 to 6 houses a year, and some of our home builders self-finance, but our smaller home builders are using the homeowner to finance the construction of the property, which requires the homeowner to sign off on the disbursement at the title companies to release the funds. And we feel like there could be some unintended consequences there that the general, who is not the owner of the property, would have payment withheld by a homeowner, and then by law have to make that payment. Many of our members self-finance their construction, and they own the property, and that requires a closing at the end of the project. And so, one of the things that the way we read this bill that this would require is for each of our subcontractors then to go to the title company to sign a release that they've been paid in accordance to this law. And many of our subcontractors, most of them, are small shops. The owner wears a tool belt. He works out on the job site. He gets home at night. Him and his wife create the invoices and send them out. But he's probably working on 100 different houses a year. Well, this would require him 100 times to go into a title company to sign a release, and we feel like our subcontractors would not want that. That would be a burden on them. And lastly, and then I'll be done, is it puts the homeowner at risk. In this example that I gave, we close our books out on the 15th of the month, and our bookkeeper is constantly begging to get invoices in. And subcontractors, because they're out on jobs and they're only doing their book work at night, it's very difficult for them to do that. Well, now we're going to ask them, hey, you got to come off the job site, go into a title company, and sign for us to be able to close. Many of our homeowners are driving U-Hauls to the title company to close on their property and then be able to move in right away. And I can see this happening where a subcontractor who forgot to come in and sign or took a week's vacation or whatever would actually stop a closing, and you've got a homeowner that's sitting there with no place to go. So those are my comments, and I'd take any questions.
As general contractors, do you all not require lien waivers before you?
We do, yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, I've spent 15 years in the banking business, and this is perplexing to me that this is even a problem as far as you've been worried about general or subs not paying you. Because, I mean, banks I work for, we wouldn't give any money whatsoever on a draw until we had all of our lien waivers from the general and
That's
the subs.
correct, yeah. That's the way that works, and
and usually they would do 0.25% draws.
And the duration
four disbursements to the entire project.
Yeah.
We didn't use title companies. A lot of banks do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could see this definitely being a banking problem too.
Yeah.
So anyway, are there any other questions from witnesses? Thank you. Any other witnesses testify in opposition? Any witnesses testify for informational purposes only? Senator Fitzwater, you have any closing comments?
That'll do it.
Thank you. All right, Senator Fitzwater, you got Senate Bill 1315 whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill 1315. It's kind of unique to have a day where you can make everybody in the building mad except for maybe a few people. So this is also going to get a line of opposition because this bill is pretty controversial in several ways, but also this is an old system we have set up for the dig right program, the 811 line. This was established in the 80s and 90s for contractors on digging and utilities, and who's responsible for any damages that are done or concerns with infrastructure as it's being shuffled about in all this construction that's happening around our state. And this was brought actually by a constituent I'm really excited to represent, and they do this work, and I think they're here to testify on behalf of this legislation. But it really impacts their businesses. They're going around building infrastructure in the state and installing broadband, installing lines all over the eastern part of the state. So I'll let them come up because we have about 20 minutes before we got to get out of this room. But I think this bill is a good start to figuring out how do we make sure that everybody's protected as there's all this construction happening around the state. So glad to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Senator Fitzwater? How many witnesses are here to testify in favor of? How many in opposition? Okay, you got 2 minutes because I'm getting sick of sitting here. So I'm telling you, I'm going to cut you off in 2 minutes. And that goes for opposition and in favor of. So you got till 9:45. Get rolling.
I'm not going to try to make everybody mad. I'm going to try to make up with Senator Fitzwater now. So this is, again, thanks for having me here. I am Ed Tweehouse Excavating.
You got a minute.
Been in business 65 years. This bill is proposed by AGC of Missouri, Associated General Contractors, Missouri. As Senator Fitzwater said, this is an update, cleanup, safety bill. The language hasn't been messed with since the late 80s, early 90s, and there have been several efforts to do it, but it's never happened. I would like your indulgence just for a second because I need to explain a couple of things.
Well, you got 30 seconds. I'm not kidding. Come on.
Okay.
Let's go.
Best practices. Since the current statute are somewhat dated and industry standards have changed, we sought to find a mechanism to maintain the relevance of Missouri statute and to ensure they keep pace with the technology advanced in the industry. We have included definitions for several changes. One of the definitions, careful and prudent and reasonable care. Both of these terms are in current statute, but neither are defined. We simply define them.
I appreciate your testimony. You can leave that too, and we'll put that in public record with your witness form.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? You got 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name's Steve Sellenrick with Sellenrick Construction. Been in business about 45 years. Got about 400 employees working. We just installed 17,000 plus broadband services last year. As Ed was talking about, this group has met with all the stakeholders. We've had meetings, 2 of them with over 100 stakeholders meeting, met with 811. They do a great job of notifications on the one call. But the bill is out of hand and needs to be updated. I've got listed here some of the problems. As Ed mentioned, we want to bring in best practices, which is updated nationally all the time. That's what contractors use. We just want to make that part of the Missouri law. The other one is excavators would like to be notified within 60 days if we've had a damage. There's a lot of times we do not know for up to 2 years, and we don't even notify when it's happened. We get notified 2 years later, and all of a sudden it's a lawyer from out of state that sends you a letter and says, here you go. This is your problem. So we would like to do that in 60 days. The other problem with it, we're not trying to take away people's rights of coming after us if we do have a damage. That's not what it's here for. We just want to know about it. We don't think that's a bad deal. The Senate bill has been met with 811. We met with them, met with the owners, met with utility companies. We've tried to address their concerns in this bill, so you all didn't have to fight it out in this room. I'm sure you're going to have some opposition to it. I'll leave my testimony behind and respect your 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the witness? Senator Schroer.
Just brief. I had to step out for a second, but I want to thank both of you for coming forward with this bill. This is something that it needs to be addressed. We've seen.
I agree, Nick.
Yeah, we've seen.
Senator, I'm sorry.
We've seen this back and forth with who to blame, what to blame. I don't care who's to blame, but it needs to stop. It needs to be fixed. So the explosions that have happened in St. Charles County and all across the state and other states don't happen. So I want to applaud the chairman once again for sponsoring this, spearheading. Hopefully we can get this accomplished so this never happens again. Unfortunate scenarios that these homes were exploding in O'Fallon. It's a blessing in disguise that no one was there. But now we're seeing with what happened with COVID, all of these crazy things happen in our world. If there were a stay-at-home order or if something's bringing these people back at home, it's terrifying to think what could have happened and what can happen. Go ahead.
Senator, just to let you know the practices that Ed was going to outline and what I've outlined in my testimony, we have implemented most of those on our projects and driven down damages about 60% overall, 90% at fault.
Well, I think,
It does work.
and speaking with some of the local leadership, especially in O'Fallon, they've been having
great.
conversations and trying to get a lot of these things in place right now. So again, I want to applaud all of the different actors that have seen this as an issue and didn't wait for legislation to get to the governor's desk to start making the rightful changes. So I'm excited to see that we're implementing these things without the need of government, but I'm going to be supporting this bill.
And if any of the committees would like to come out and see a job site and we can explain it, it's always open.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the witness? Thank you for your testimony. Are there any witnesses testify in favor of the bill?
Good morning. My name is Ron Peterson. I'm the Executive Director of the National Utility Locating Contractors Association, member of the Common Ground Alliance, a member of the Infrastructure Protection Coalition since both their inceptions. I'll be really brief. I stand behind what my two predecessors have said, and I just want to add one thought for you. In the world of safety, it's accurately stated that OSHA regulations are all written in blood, meaning something really, really bad has to happen before that changes. And over the last 20 years, I've seen that same disturbing trend in infrastructure protection and damage prevention. So my hope for you guys, as a 60-year resident also of the state of Missouri, is that we'll be proactive. We don't want another St. Louis County, a JJ's in Kansas City, an M's Pub in Omaha, Nebraska. We need to be proactive so that we're not back here following something really, really bad. Thank you.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. The other witness testified in favor of.
Good morning again. Aaron Griesheimer, registered lobbyist with Site Improvement Association. I'll make this brief. We are in support of Senate Bill 1315. We feel this is a step in the right direction and leveling the playing field on behalf of the contractors. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Is there a prohibition we can have on people speaking more than once today? Yeah. Just one person. I'm all for it. I'm just playing. Thank you very much, former representative, for working with us on this issue. I applaud all your efforts inside and outside of this building on this.
Thank you. This is an issue that our association has been working diligently to try and resolve for many, many years, especially when you and I were in the building together. So it's good to see you again, Senator. Sorry. And if anybody's ever told you look like Ryan O'Reilly, I don't know if anybody told you that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other witnesses testify in favor of the bill? Please come forward. The first witness in opposition to. You got 2 minutes. And I'm being serious.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Zach Monroe, on behalf of Ameren, Missouri, here to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 1315. The part I'm going to cover specifically is on page 23, 319034, section 2. We've talked a lot about today about safety, and there's a concern about timely locates, accurate locates, and due to the drastic shift in volume over the course of a year of locates, it becomes very difficult to maintain accurate staffing at these locating facilities, internally and externally, to do these. And Section 2 specifically talks about how utilities be responsible for paying for downtime, loss of revenue for the excavator due to delays in locates. And that is something that is one of our reasons for opposition for this, just because there's nothing in this bill to address that volatility and how that is dealt with. It should be one with another, not one without the other. So that's my brief testimony opposition.
Appreciate you being brief. Any questions for the witness? Senator Bean.
Brief question. What's the time usually on a locate once you call it in? Do you know? Can you anybody give you an average?
It's the day of call plus 48 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's 8 a.m. basically the third day.
That's when they've got to be there?
That's when they have to be done. Most locates are done within the first 24 hours.
Because we've called in rural Missouri, and we'll wait a week. So
yeah.
Anyway,
statute.
I'll tell you what happened to me one time. The utilities cut my phone line and water line, and they didn't want to fix it. I had to. Now, they did, but I went through hell getting it done.
Wasn't us, was it?
Wasn't us? No, it was not. I will say that. Nothing but love. Nothing but love for Ameren. there any other witnesses testifying in opposition to the bill? Thank you.
Larry Boyce with Fire Missouri Natural Gas. There's some really good things. Larry Poyce with Spire, Missouri Natural Gas. There's some really good things in this bill. This discussion is ongoing, has been ongoing for a number of years. We have natural gas as a commodity, which goes boom, so this is of utmost importance to us on the safety side. On Section 10 is where we have maybe an issue where we think it should be actual discovery of some things. If you're doing underground boring and you bore through a sewer line or you bore through something, you may not notice that immediately. So if you're just doing it at the time of it occurs or whatever this language says versus actual discovery, I understand that the delay that might cause in recognizing and in dealing with it. But we do have particular issue with that particular section. Also, when COVID hit for whatever reason, maybe it's combined with deployment of broadband, but the volume on that system went through the roof. And to some extent now, when people call in, it's my understanding that if you don't need it in 2 days or 48 hours after that first day, they'll ask you if we can do it beyond that date because of the volume we're dealing with. And also you're dealing with a labor issue that everybody has dealt with in the business community, trying to get good help, trying to keep good help over the last few years. I would ask that the committee, that this bill also address whether or not a permanent extension, at least in certain times of the year, for those people to locate these things, gets done to maybe eliminate some of the errors that occur when people are in a really big hurry.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions for the witness? Senator Williams.
Probably more of a statement. This is probably the first time I've seen one of the nicest senators have this many people in opposition to his bill.
They're all in big trouble,
I'm really
Senator.
perplexed by this. I'm like, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
I'll
a
go
lot
on
of hope for
record and
this
say
bill.
Senator Fitzwater is a great guy.
He is. Any other witnesses testify in opposition? We're going to be out of here by 10. We got 6 minutes total, so we're going to knock her down to a minute.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me. My name is Ken Franklin with Missouri American Water. I just want to echo what my utility cousins were saying. We do agree with safety. We thank the senator for this leadership, but we think we need to flesh out those issues that were just stated a little bit more with a little bit more conversation. We want our employees, our customers to be safe and arrive the same way they are too. So with that, I will end my quick.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses testifying in opposition to you?
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Skip Stone. I'm here on behalf of the St. Louis Home Builders Association. We think there's a lot of great things in this bill, and we've had an opportunity, along with other stakeholders, excuse me, to meet with the AGC. We propose one compromise. We would like to see that this bill not apply to storm sewers or any sanitary sewers that are installed at a depth of 6 feet or less. We understand the issues that the industry has seen, but we think that compromise from a cost perspective, which gets passed on to homeowners, would be a fair compromise. So I'll leave my testimony.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next witness in opposition to you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Fred Dreiling representing the Missouri Association of Municipal Utilities, City Utilities of Springfield, and Association of Water Districts, and we would like to go on record in opposition. We appreciate the sponsor and look forward to working with him on this issue because we know it's not going away.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this witness? Next witness to testify in opposition to.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kaina Iman on behalf of Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District. We too have been involved in the stakeholder meetings and would love to continue those conversations, but we have some specific concerns with the exact language in the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Any question for the witness? Thank you. Next witness, testify in opposition to. Thank you for your testimony. Next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kara with Evergy. Me too. For all the reasons you already heard, we are in opposition. Thank you.
Next witness. We're going to get through everybody, and we got 3 minutes.
Good morning. Richard Shades with Missouri Municipal League. Just want to go on record opposition and willing to work with the sponsor and the contractors on this issue.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next witness to opposition to.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. John Hensley, registered lobbyist for the Missouri Natural Gas Association. No need to repeat the testimony of prior witnesses. Just want to go on record in opposition.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, next witness. We're waiting on you, Claudia.
Yes, sir. Claudia Sands, registered lobbyist for Brightspeed, want to go on record opposing the bill, working with the senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness to testify in opposition to.
Mr. Chairman, Scott Swain, Verizon, opposed.
Okay, that's great.
Mr. Chairman, Noel Torpy with the Cable Association, just want to go on record, opposed.
Thank you, Noel. Any questions for any of these witnesses? Seeing none. Next witness in opposition to.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Tracy King with AT&T, and we'd like to go on record.
Love me some AT&T.
Mr. Chairman, Philip Arnson, Mo Chamber, we're in opposition.
Okay. What's that? Yeah, I think so too. I think they have somebody. I think they have something against bald people.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bill Gamble, Missouri Broadband Providers. I'm not mad at the sponsor. I love every senator in the room.
Oh well, thank you, Bill. We love you too. Is there any other witnesses testifying in opposition to? Any for informational purposes only, which also means you're against it. You just don't want to go on record. But all right, seeing none, Senator, do you have any closing comments?
That was great.
All right. With no other business come before the committee, I move to adjourn. We're done.